Greeting, friends, and it's the grumpy old man coming live to you from Studio B and station WDWL TV, located on Grumpy Vulture Boulevard. Oh my God. Now, if this volume is like blowing your ears out, I'm sorry. Last night, the microphone I was testing, I had to go in and adjust the audio way up, and it still came through like I was standing in, Studio A. So I tried to set this, and what I have to do, I have to take each microphone, Blue Yeti stereo mic, setting such and such, like this right now is set at minus 3.3 dB. I might have to minus it to like 5 dB or I'm still getting used to Prism Live Studio. Basically for me, streaming for dummies. And I noticed the camera was sitting at an angle. Who messed with that? It never fails. Somebody has always got to come in and screw around in the studio. Before we get to my question, okay? Because I have a question for the ladies. A couple weeks ago, me and the production crew were discussing upgrading ID cards, press passes, because we are going to do a man on the street segment. Come on. I have these great attachments that were given me. I can take any microphone, this one or any of the others, and put on the transmitter, and then so we sat down, kind of added something to the press passes, didn't you? And you didn't clear it with any of us, did you? Before I wrap my hand around your skinny little neck, I think you best go back in your cage, okay? I'm glad you agree. All right, friends. Yesterday, in the mail, the press passes arrived. Okay? Press pass. Come on, camera, focus. Okay? Press pass. With a lavalier clip. Let me show you the back. Grumpy Vulture Productions. And the asshole posed for a photo. It's bad enough. He gets, top billing. Grumpy Vulture Productions has a street named after him, Grumpy Vulture Boulevard. Then he destroys our press passes. Now I'm glad when they clip on, they don't rotate. And there is no way I'm going to clip this on backwards. Every member of the production staff and what happened was, unbeknownst to any of us, when the mock-up was emailed, somebody got his little bird feet on the keys and typed out approved. And then these showed up. And of course, across the top it says Grumpy Vulture Productions on top of it. So, both sides of the press passes. Needless to say, me and the production crew might be having barbecued vulture one day. Ugh. Perish the thought. Let me put my lanyard clip on, because I had to remove it to show everybody. It's not a lanyard clip, it's a lapel clip. So we were not very happy with a certain bird yesterday. We are still not happy. And at the cost of these press passes, we just can't throw them away. We're stuck with them. Now for the question I have for the ladies out in our studio audience, sitting there watching your big screen TV with the grumpy old man. It's regarding these hoop earrings. Now, I have seen various sizes of these hoop earrings. And, most ladies wear like maybe a 3-inch diameter, thin gold or white gold hoop. They look tasteful. Today, I had to run up to the grocery store to pick up a few things. Mainly, I could not believe it. We were out of mustard in the studio. Mustard. We usually have 2 or 3 different varieties in the fridge. Regular Grey Poupon. One of the crew likes a sweet onion. That one's not bad. Sweet onion is pretty tasty mustard. It didn't sound like gives a real touch to certain lunch meats. And then, like a Dusseldorf good German brand mustard. Because there's times, the yellow gets boring. That's all we had as kids, yellow mustard. And I needed some more of my, ginger ale. So, of course, with this being, Sniper Bowl Sunday, all the last minute partiers are getting their snacks. this woman in front of me, and I'll go into her carts, plural. She had these hoop earrings on that were the size of a ceiling band for a 55-gallon drum. Now, I know you ladies probably don't know what I'm talking about, but some 55-gallon drums have a band that seals the lid to the drum itself, and a bolt goes through it, and they tighten it down to seal it. I mean, these are like the size of a garbage can lid hanging off of her ears. And they were lined with colored stones. Now, these colored stones were between the size of a nickel and a quarter. So unless they were plastic, which I doubt, they had to weigh as much as a Greyhound bus, hanging from her ears. Now, first of all, every time she turned her head, they got caught in this and got caught in her hair and caught in her jacket. Second of all, as heavy as these things were, I'm surprised her earlobes weren't down to her waist. My question for the ladies, how the hell can you wear that shit? It can't be light. And it's got to be painful when it catches on something. And do you actually think this is a gorgeous piece of accent jewelry for your head? They were huge. They had to be the size of at least the size of a dessert plate, with all these stones on them. I think that's a little overkill, ladies, don't you? Now, like I say, I've seen fairly large, but they're little thin, singular hoop. Now, yeah, I've seen them. They kind of get caught on clothing, but they got to be light enough. These things had to weigh as much as a bowling ball. Because, like I say, I doubt the stones were plastic. They could have been. I didn't want to reach out and touch someone, But what is it with these ultra-large hoops? I don't get it. Those, by no means, looked attractive. They garnered attention. If she was looking for attention, she got the attention because everybody was looking at these big Godzilla hoops. And before I get into the carts, another thing that boggles my mind: toe rings. Toe rings. What is the idea behind a toe ring? I don't get that either. You've got 8 fingers and 2 thumbs. You can get a lot of rings on fingers. You got to put them on your toes. Were full of chips, pretzels, Doritos, Fritos, and she had to have at least 20 containers of chip dip. Not to mention, they're like 8 bottles of salsa. So I'm watching the girl at the register. And of course, by now, she's getting carpal tunnel from ringing all this stuff up. $262.83 worth of chips, pretzels, Doritos, Fritos, and dips. I almost fell over. I'm also thinking, wherever this party is, I hope everybody chipped in for the chips. I've seen groceries total those amounts. But chips and pretzels, never in my life. And I'm wondering, if she was the person assigned to chips and pretzels, what is the person spending that's assigned to the pizza or sandwiches? And then on top of that, how much is the person spending for the refreshments? And I think the majority of the refreshments were, fermented grain beverage. Now, I'm sure that there's probably pop and maybe some crushed grape drink, if you catch my drift. How many people are coming to this party? And then, after consuming all of this fermented grain beverage, how many idiots are going to get behind the wheel and drive? Because, us men are like, Uber? Are you fucking kidding me? I don't need an Uber. Where's my keys? As soon as I find my keys, and then hopefully I can find the ignition, I can drive home. I'm not drunk. Yeah. Some insurance adjusters are going to be busy in the morning, I think. I don't get it. Now, back in the day, I was a huge football fan. Huge. On Sunday, when they had the doubleheader, I would have a big tray table and a cooler. And the tray table would be loaded with all kinds of snacks, pepperoni and crackers and cheese and lunch meat. And don't fucking bother me. Don't even breathe in the same room. And then in Cleveland, we went several years with no football. And over that time span, I lost interest. Totally. And I know, Super Bowl is the big event. But just mind you, peoples, friends, you will see more of Taylor Swift than you will see of the game. Just saying, in my opinion. But it's already been predicted. The predictions are out there. There is actually a line in Vegas betting how many minutes of airtime will be spent on Taylor Swift cheering for Kelsey. Kelsey? I think that's his name. Yeah. Needless to say, I didn't place any bets, especially on that one. But could you see somebody winning like $50,000 because they guessed the perfect minute and second that Taylor Swift got the airtime versus the actual football game? Because as soon as he does anything on the field, the camera's going to go from him to her. And then back and forth. Him, her, him, her, him, her. And then during the halftime show, you know that there's going to be a lot of camera shots of her. Because they're going to want to see the facial expressions as to the performance. Now, nothing against, hey, the grumpy old man does play some Taylor Swift songs at times. I'm not a Swiftie. But the grumpy old man does play some Taylor Swift songs. So don't everybody, she's a great performer. All the awards that she's won, she's deserved. She's earned them. And she does have great music. So I'm not downing Taylor Swift. I'm just saying. There is a betting pool as to how many minutes of airtime she's going to get during the game. I actually thought it was funny. And then the really crazy thing was when Kelsey's mom said, I don't know if I can afford to go to the game. Hello? First of all, it's your mommy. Second of all, you're making a gazillion dollars. You can't afford to rent a loge for mommy? Yeah, his mother was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it to the Super Bowl. I would think as soon as his team won and he knew he was going to the Super Bowl, he'd have been on the phone with his agent saying, book a loge for mommy. Here's my American Distress card. Pay it. I'm going to get off track here, but this is the thing that amazes the shit out of me. When some of these football players who are making a gazillion dollars a year cry poor mouth. Well, I couldn't afford that because my 3 Ferrari payments were due. First of all, you don't need 3 Ferraris. You can only drive one at a time. Second of all, where are your checks going if you can't afford... I forgot to look up how much he earns a year. But you know, just going to the Super Bowl, you get a big bonus. That should more than cover Mommy's loge and her plane ticket. I mean, God, for what you're earning a year, you could afford to fly around on a private jet. Because they have Uber jets. Yeah, like you call an Uber to take you to the airport. Well, that Uber could take you to the airport for your Uber jet. I saw an article the other day, and it was one of these twin-engine 8-10 passenger private jets that basically it was cheap. It was like for $150, they would take you up for an hour and fly over your city. And then back down, and then you get in your Uber to go home. But yeah, it was it was really tempting for the grumpy old man to give it a shot. Although I have been on a plane one time. Was a 22-passenger express jet. It was like being in a stretched version of an MRI machine. And then to make matters worse, although I have to give it to the flight attendant, my seat was right behind the bulkhead that separated me from the cockpit. And I had my knees under my chin. And she said, "You look uncomfortable." Oh, me? No, I'm fine. I'm going to enjoy this hour and a half flight. No problem. She's, "Come with me." And she put me in a nice, comfy seat right by the wing. And I raised the window shade and looked out and went, wow, there's a wing out there. I could step out and have a smoke during the flight if I want. Because there was also because the first thing she says to me, in case of, she didn't say, how did she put that? In case of flight distress. Flight distress. Can you open that? Can I open it? I'll be out before the plane crashes. Don't worry about can I open it. I'll be the guy at the end of the runway down there, standing there while the plane's in flames going, "Gee, I was on that plane. Don't worry, can I open it?" Although she didn't appreciate the joke when I said, well, as long as I have a door, I could step out and have a smoke during the flight, because this is the first time I've ever been on a plane. Years back, I was in a helicopter. I knew someone who was the pilot for the police helicopter. And we went up. And I was like, oh boy. Until he took the doors off. I was like, why are you... He said, you'll get a better view. I'm not sure I wanted a better view, but he took the doors off. We don't need them. Well, needless to say, if my seatbelt would have been any tighter, friends, I'd have broken my ribs. Although it was an interesting flight, until he decided to play bush pilot. Nothing like having your stomach go from here to your throat, here to your throat, here to your throat. When I got back, I had to push my stomach back down because it was stuck right here. So when the nice flight attendant said, do you think you can open that door? I said, no problem. I will, believe me, I will not only, and she said, when you open the door, throw it out. No problem. I will be throwing that door out as part of me as I throw myself out of the plane. Yeah. Just remember, sir, when you open the door, throw it out. Because if you leave it in, it might cause congestion with other people trying to get out. Don't worry. I will throw that thing out so far, Google won't be able to find it. Don't worry. So yeah, that was my first and last. My next trip, go Greyhound and leave the driving to him. Or maybe Amtrak. I would love to take Amtrak cross country and sit up in that scenic. I just think that would be so neat. I've been on a train many times. Back in the day, a friend of mine owned a used car lot in Maryland, outside of Cumberland. And he had a lot of customers in Cleveland. So he would pay me to drive the cars back and buy me a ticket. He bought me a Trisket. I had a Trisket along with my ticket. So I would take the train up to Maryland and then drive the car back. So I got a nice train trip and a nice wage for bringing the car back. And he had a credit card for gas. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I brought back some nice cars. Cadillacs, Lincolns. What was the fanciest one I brought back? An Aston Martin. I love that car. Especially going through the gears. Oh, man. Row that thing through the gears. It was hard to keep my right foot in the upper position. I really hated giving that car up. but it wasn't mine. And 90% of the time, I would sit with the conductor and chat. I would always ask, do you mind if I sit with you? Yeah, sure, come on. I remember my first trip. He said, once we leave the city limits, you will know. And I said, know what? He goes, you will know. Well, when we left the city limits, that went from a standard Amtrak to a rocket train. And it was fun. Although, what the conductor did, because I went up at night, and I would arrive early in the morning, he would, on the left side, he would shut all the window blinds. So I says to him, I says, why are you shutting? He says, once we leave the city limits, you can open your blind. Because he was sitting right across from me. Well, when it turned into a rocket train, I opened and first of all, I couldn't see any land. It was like, and when there happened to be a post or a tree, it went by so fast. It was like, that didn't bother me as much as looking out the window and not seeing any land. Like, where's the land? He goes, well, it's down there. How far? It's down there. I don't want to be down there. I want to be up here. And I just shut the blind. After that, it was old hat. But I'll tell you, friends, take a train ride sometime. Go back in time when rail travel was the shit. You know, women dressed in fancy dresses and men in their three-piece suits and their fedoras, you know, with a cocktail. Because that was the mode of transportation. You know, air flight wasn't really in style. Rail was. And like I say, I would love to take a trip out west. My bucket list: seeing the Grand Canyon in person. I've seen it on TV, and I would just love to be standing at the edge, looking down. One of my bucket list items. But even if it's a short trip, friends, experience rail. You'll love it. You'll love it. Another item on my bucket list, and they run it once a year. Take a trip being pulled by a steam engine. I have gone up, and I wish I could find the videos. I have videos of this, because it runs like, I can't remember where it starts, but it goes up to Toledo, and then it turns around and it comes back. And I have gone up and videoed it. And there is nothing neater on earth than to hear that steam engine. And when it came up through downtown Cleveland, at that point, I knew I had enough time to get to the far end of Lakewood so that I could set up my tripod, my cameras. And then it got louder. Ooh, 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 ooh. And then you saw the smoke. And then when it went past me, I was in a cloud of steam. That's item 2 on my bucket list. See the Grand Canyon, ride a steam engine. Number 2 will probably be bumped to number 1 because that's more feasible. For 2 reasons. 1, the money. It ain't a cheap trip to go cross country. Not to mention, you got to eat. You got to get a sleeper berth. All those things. So, number 2, probably going to get crossed off the list. Number 1, ride the steam engine. It comes through every year. I can't remember how long it's here. But like I say, it goes from somewhere, I think somewhere east of Cleveland, and then up to Toledo, and they turn the engine around and they come back. That I want to do. Like I say, I've ridden a regular Amtrak. I just think riding a steam engine would take you back in time. Especially if you were sitting on it with your eyes closed, imagining what it was back in the 40s and 50s to ride the rails. Go back to the lounge car and get yourself a cocktail and have a cigar. That's more feasible. Item number 3 is even less feasible. Owning a Rolls Royce. Although I looked on eBay, there were a couple fairly new 90s for 18, 20,000. Yeah, I sit here like 18, 20,000 is, pocket change. But yeah, when you're talking a car that today sells for almost $500,000, 18, 20,000 for, and I've looked at many. There is no such thing as a shabby Rolls Royce. People take care of them. And most of them were down in Florida. Hialeah, there were several down in Hialeah. $18,000, $20,000. It's feasible. Not for me, but it's feasible. Somebody a lot younger that's got a little scratch that would like to own a Rolls, go down to Florida, buy one, drive it back. I've driven couple of times. 22 hours straight through. Yeah, I'm dumb enough to do that shit. Well, I was back in the day. Yeah, 22 hours. Left from Florida, back to Cleveland. The sad thing is, when I got back, trying to sleep because you're so wound up. But I've done it. And if I had the cash, I would go down, pick one up, motor back with a jar of Grey Poupon mustard. A lot of you youngsters won't understand that joke. But back in the day, there used to be a commercial, a guy would pull up next to somebody in a Rolls Royce and he'd have a sandwich and go, "Pardon me, sir, do you have any Grey Poupon?" And the guy would pick up a bottle of Grey Poupon and go, "But of course." And then it would show him, because all the Rolls Royces have tray tables built into the seats. And he'd be slicing some filet mignon and spreading his Grey Poupon on his filet mignon while he's riding in his Rolls. Look up the commercial. Google it. You'll understand it. The grumpy old man ain't making shit up out of his imagination. Pardon me. Need a little. Now the mug is. I grabbed this by accident today. I know somebody's looking for the mug. I grabbed this one by accident. It was in the dish strainer. Problem is, this is blue, although the other one's round. This one's square. Dumbass. But I do have the bottle of hand sanitizer. I'm going to see what I can get tomorrow. I have to go up and see the little cutie tomorrow. I know, sexist, dirty old man. She is cute as a button. She's a doll. I love her. Her hair looks like it's kind of frizzed out, but on her it looks good. There was one item I forgot. As a matter of fact, it's something that I've needed to take care of for a while, and I keep forgetting. So I pulled the folder out, and it's sitting on my dresser. And I'm going to call her in the morning and say, "Hey, I need 15 minutes of your time." And then I'm going to go up and see her and get this item taken care of and see what else I can snatch from the bank. See, back in the day, before PNC bought out National City Bank, they gave away all kinds of neat shit. I opened a Visa, and I got this nice lunch bag. National City Visa. They used to give, as a matter of fact, I'm going to take this with me tomorrow, because I told her, I says, I've got lunch bags and totes and, matter of fact, it just reminded me, the video camera, the digital camera. I'm going to take that and this, I'm going to show her. This is the kind of stuff you got from the bank. They gave you neat stuff. Now you get a free plastic pen. Unless you threaten to steal a bottle of hand sanitizer and she goes, "It's yours, take it. It's yours, take it." And if she was kidding, I took it. Mine. Yeah, back in the day, banks, and the thing that really, and I know I'm running close to an hour just babbling on like an idiot, but back in the day, every business gave you a calendar in December. You were inundated with calendars. You know, they sent them to you in the mail, and every place you went, you had more calendars than China had rice. And the really expensive ones, the funeral homes would send you for two reasons. First of all, it sat on your desk. It flipped out in a little stand, and inside of it, it folded open, and it had a phone directory. You could put all your phone numbers in that you recently called or important. And then when you flipped it shut, it stood on your desk. And of course, emblazoned across the top was the funeral home's name and phone number. They would send the nice ones because they wanted your business. Now, it pisses me off to no end to have to buy a calendar because I need one. I need to keep appointments and stuff straight. So as a matter of fact, the one I've got is a desk blotter calendar, but I've got it hanging up. But to have to buy a calendar, because nobody gives them away anymore. No one. But back in the day, if you had 30 calendars, I can remember every car dealer that my parents ever bought a car from sent a calendar. Although most of them were just from one dealer because my father only went to one dealer when he would buy his new Cadillacs. But if he would have gone, I remember before he had a Cadillac, we had a Lincoln Mercury dealer calendar. We had a Buick dealer calendar. I remember he bought a Thunderbird, so we had a Ford. And then, after that it was Cadillac. We calendars up the ass. Now, not. I have to buy one. Everybody's getting cheap. Everybody. Buy a calendar. Jesus. But with that, I'm at, 54 minutes. Man, did I ramble tonight. I probably lost everybody at the 20-minute mark, so if anybody's hanging in there, thank you. But I'm going to call it an evening. Friends, I will talk to you tomorrow. And number 30, you get the big thumbs up. And number 31, you get a big thumbs up from the grumpy old man. And with that, I'm going to sign off.